when was like the first time that you really felt like life was just not worth living? And was it a slow creep, or did you just kind of arrive
there? I think as far back as I can remember, I have always, living was always very difficult. So the idea of ending my life, didn't seem like much of a stretch. So I remember being, I can't remember how old I was. I just remember lying in my bed and having these sort of deep existential thoughts that, you know, a 6-year-old should not be having, just about the idea that there is no life. Beyond this, there is no life. And since there is no life beyond this life is terrible. So I'll just go take what I don't know. So the idea of dying seemed better to me than the world I was living in. So I think I've always, as long as I can remember, saying I've struggled with suicide isn't exactly right. I have slow danced with the idea of it. And when I met my wife, we met when we were 15 or 16. It started to subside. I had faith, sort of, but she definitely became my faith. It's no good, by the way. But my wife was the first person I ever loved. I guess what precipitated all this was, you know, sexual abuse when I was very young. And when that happened at the time, I didn't realize it was bad. I felt a deep connection to the person that had violated me. So the first person I felt a connection with was the person who violated me. The next person I felt a connection with was my wife. This sort of love. So there's sort of those two periods in my life where the darkness wasn't so dark. Which, if you think about it, not even think about it right now, that's a mind screw.
Right, probably because in the moment of the abuse, you were getting something, like the attention, that you were really lacking. So then that probably made everything very confused. And
well, I think what, this is all in retrospect, but thinking about it now, I think what was so confusing about it for me was the strong feeling of belonging, and then finding out from people who were supposed to love me and protect me that something was wrong with me. Not that someone had done something to me, but that something was wrong with me.
Almost like the blame.
Yeah. But those two moments, periods in my life, like I said, is when the darkness kind of cleared. And then I felt deeply in love, as much as a 16 or 17-year-old can, with my my now wife. And boy, I was crazy. I had zero idea how to behave around people. I didn't know you shouldn't follow people. I would watch her work. I would stand outside in the parking lot and watch her work. I didn't know you shouldn't do that. And I would, of course, I would never talk to her because I didn't know how to speak in a way that made sense. But I think sometime before she went off to college, I asked her to marry me. 17 or 18. I went to service merchandise, put a $50 ring on layaway. It was the cheapest, crappiest ring I could afford. I asked her to marry me. She said yes. And it was like the darkness went away again. And not long after that, she came to her senses and realized, I can't marry this guy. I got to go to college. And she broke it off. And of course, I didn't understand. I didn't understand she wasn't rejecting me. She had to live her life. But she was my life. And boy, did the darkness come back. Mm. And so I just, those couple years when that we were apart, year and a half, I did everything I could to end my life.
So that was the first actual attempt?
Well, no. I mean, when I was a kid, I had done it.
You tried to kill yourself as a kid?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
As much as was it a serious attempt, or
I can't imagine any of these were serious. I feel like if I really wanted to do it, I would have done it. Something. I don't know. I think shamefully, then and maybe even sometimes now, I didn't feel brave enough to do it.
It's like wanting a release from all of the pain.
Yeah.
Kind of seeing that as a potential option.
Yeah.
But not feeling like you could actually get to that point, but wanting it like hunger.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, I would cut myself. I would put myself in positions where I might die, but I could never just do it myself.
So it was a little bit of recklessness in there.
There's a lot of recklessness. Yes. Yeah, that was, being reckless was my attempt to end my life because I didn't feel, I know this sounds crazy, but I didn't feel strong enough or brave enough just to do it. Mm.
So in that year, you said that Jen was gone, and you were really struggling with the darkness coming back.
Yeah. So
you said you were then attempting at that point.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
What's going through your mind in that moment?
You know, trying to explain depression to someone, is like trying to describe a sunset to a blind person who's never seen it. I mean, I can tell you, but you can't know until you've seen it. So,
it's like all the color gets sucked out of your life. That's the way I've tried to describe depression.
Yes.
You can't see. You're just seeing or at least for me, it's like seeing through murky glass, and you're looking at no color.
That's right.
And then you're stuck in that, an anchor. Can't move. You can't get out of it. And so you try to figure out how, in that moment, in that space, how to kind of live. But it's really hard because you're still looking at everything murky, and everybody around you is outside of it.
Yeah.
And they don't understand why you can't move past it.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's how I felt with it. So
yeah, that is, it was this, I was completely devoid of feeling anything. And the only way I could feel things was to hurt myself or to hurt someone else. I remember fighting a lot and just feeling alive, like having these moments of release, being hit, and strange coping mechanism, but physical pain seemed to relieve it. But trying to explain that to someone, it just sounds weird. It does. It's weird, you know. Fish eggs are weird if you've never eaten them. Like it's just a weird deal. So, and I remember, you know, also having these feelings and resenting people because they didn't understand me. But also wanting badly to be loved by everyone I saw, but being incapable of asking for it. And just the only place I could go was my bedroom and to hide, you know. So the darkness, as long as I can remember, has always been there. And the ways the clouds lifted for me, violence, drugs and alcohol, sort of, but not really. I liked both things, but violence seemed a better medicine. And then my wife. And going into a marriage with all of that darkness, and putting so much pressure and importance on this person who showed me light. That's what I brought into my marriage with my wife. So all of this pain, all of this brokenness. And she was one of the few people who knew most about my life. She may be the only person who knows all about my life. But we were so young and immature, and as much as she, you know, as amazing as she is, how do you cope with marrying a psychopath? And then one whose entire world is you.
So when you talk about, like, you would watch her, like when you guys first started dating and stuff like that, did you think that was looking for connection with someone and not knowing how to make that connection? So when you came into the marriage, now you're connected, but it's still not the kind of connection.
Yeah.
You know, getting to that deep place.
Yeah.
Because when I got married, life was a train wreck of trying to learn how to live with somebody.
Yeah.
You know, and that, even people at their best, that's hard.
That's right. That's right.
So if you're bringing in a lot of other stuff, it can be an
uphill
uphill battle.
That's the thing. Like, that's a great sort of parallel. Watching my wife work, and you know, it was this skyline in Forest Park. I'd stand in the UDF parking lot and just watch her. She didn't know. I'd watch her, and I was just happy watching her. I was also sort of keeping tabs if any guy was around that was my wife. She wasn't, but that's the person I'm going to be with. So it was both, she brought me peace, and I was trying to protect my precious. And then once we got married, it was like, oh, she's here. Nah, I don't want to be around you. I need to look at you from a distance, because this relating thing isn't working. So I had her. She was supposed to bring me all this peace. and all this life. And then we get married and bills have to be paid, and now we have children, and you're not giving me those things anymore.
So did you go back into your darkness after
immediately.
That?
Yeah, immediately. It wasn't, I say immediately. So it was about, so I kept the dark for about 15 years. I kept the darkness sort of, at bay by being angry all the time. Angry and, being a workaholic is awesome for that sort of thing. All my isms I had to give up when I got married. So the things that the things that would give me some bit of comfort, I couldn't do anymore. You can't fight when you're married. You shouldn't do that. You can't fight when you have children. You can't just go pick fights, and you can't be drunk all the time. I mean, you could do those things, but even there was a part of me that knew I can't put my family through that. So the workaholism, insomnia, I would sleep a couple hours a night. I could just go and go and go. Didn't have to eat. Finding purpose in my work shut the darkness out momentarily, because, in your work, it's workaholics are looking for approval. If I can perform well, you'll love me. Well, and you do that. And it's the same with my wife and getting married. If we get married, everything will be okay until we get married. And then I realize, wait, I'm broken and this didn't fix it. I'm going to work really hard and perform well, but wait, I have to make great things all the time or I don't feel this.
So your work, was that a creative, was that music? So
yeah, music and, all kinds of stuff, creating moments.
Was that ever in that creative space? Were you able to pour out some of your darkness into your work? Okay. So your creativity your darkness stopped at the point of your creativity.
Correct.
So, okay.
Yeah, I definitely never created out of pain, though my pain compelled me to work hard.
Gotcha.
So, it's quite a terrible grace to be filled with great ideas and then be separated from the pain you feel. Because I think a lot of artists create out of pain. And I was really fortunate. I don't think I ever necessarily created out of pain. Maybe running from it more than anything. Okay. But pain and darkness and those things, it might be naive to say this, but I don't think they colored what I made. At least not consciously.
So you saw it then as somewhat of an escape, but there was also a perfectionistic layer on it. For you, it was getting that approval, and so it probably the ante got upped every single time you created.
So 15 straight years of doing that, and 15 years of working, working myself, just, I want to say death, but it's not working myself to death, but working myself to a point where I've alienated everybody in my life. My wife, my children. The only friends I had in my life were ones that I saw that could further my work agenda. I had I had and still have relationships from that time period that were birthed out of that need for approval. And so those relationships now are, it's a weird minefield for me to dance through. But those 15 years of not sleeping, not really eating, not talking about what the darkness or where it came from. I had sort of brief stints of counseling that my wife would beg me to do, and I would just manipulate my way through them. Like, if I learned anything, I learned how to lie and manipulate really well.
So what kept you from actually recognizing that, hey, there's a problem and maybe this can help? Like you're saying, your wife prompted you to go, but
I hadn't reached the darkest place yet.
Okay.
But I think that's the only thing that makes sense to me now. Because you can't be surrounded by that much love, that many people who are fighting and caring for you, and not realize it unless you haven't reached the absolute end of yourself.
The bottom.
Yeah.
Rock bottom, as they say.
And, denial's great. Self-denial is awesome. Being able to pretend you aren't actually who you are. And the other thing about that is, as a sort of perfectionist workaholic, people benefit from that. And so you make enough great stuff, and people can, for a time, turn away and not see you destroying yourself.
Because all they're seeing is the work, right?
As long as they see the work, and it's not their fault. You're the one hiding it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But eventually that all came to a screeching halt. The depression and I was hearing voices. I was having extreme flashbacks, like smells. I would see numbers. I just remember seeing a number and having a panic attack. Still don't know why.
But it was a trigger.
Yeah. And I didn't know anything about triggers.
Yeah.
But it began to, the snowball started to happen. And it started with this dear friend of mine passing away. And he was more than a father to me. He understood me. He was one of the few people I didn't try to manipulate. And he passed away. And whatever sort of ropes were holding me, down in the midst of, the storm, just started to break. There were days where I would, put my son Joshua down to bed, and I would just weep uncontrollably. Just could not stop it. I don't know why I cried. I would just look at, now I know why.
Yeah.
But at the moment I was like, what the hell is wrong with me? I could not control my emotions, and my mind was just betraying me.
Yeah.
So everything I had that kept me sane and alive was just crumbling. All the lies I tell myself, all the, the working, all of the things I used to hold back the darkness just let go. And then I had finally had enough, and I was aware enough that I didn't want my children to know their father had committed suicide. And I was riding motorcycles at this time, and a motorcycle accident happens all the time. And I felt this, sounds so terrible, but I felt this amazing peace for a minute, because I was like, no one will know. Mm-hmm. I won't hurt anybody, but it will be done. This will be done. And so I'd come up with a plan. I knew, I know if I go this way, if I go this fast, and if I do this thing, done. And it will make total sense. I ride my motorcycle fast. That's not how. So I got up, woke up, ready to do it. I was like, this is it. And it wasn't like I'm saying goodbyes. It was like, I just need to be done with this. I was sitting on the couch before going to work and talking to my wife about something. I don't remember all the details, but what I remember is her looking at me and saying, "Are you going to hurt yourself today?" And I said, "Yeah." I have no idea why.
Okay, now when you say no idea why, in her asking the question or that you answered honestly?
Both.
Could it possibly have been God in that
Well,
moment?
certainly.
Yeah.
Yes. So, yes. When I say I had no idea why, I know why now. I had no idea why she would ask me that and why I would be honest. And now my wife does not suffer fools. Like, she is a straight shooter. And she was like, okay, well, you need to go talk to somebody. I had put my wife through terrible things. She loved me and she was sick and tired of me. So at that moment, she was like, go talk to somebody. Not a whole lot of empathy in that moment. And I was like, oh, okay. So I went to work. Really, I don't remember getting to work. I just remember getting to work and then went to talk with my manager. And we're talking, and she asked me, "Are you going to hurt yourself?" Yes, I am. I'm going to. Yes. And the dam just started going, just started breaking. She's like, okay. She made a phone call. She said, I'll talk to you later. Great. The dam is just, everything is crumbling, and I'm vaguely aware of it. And then I get a call from the executive director at my job. He calls and sits me down, and we're friends, so we have a pretty frank conversation. He starts to ask me questions. And I guess I answered them right. Then the next thing I know, I'm in his car, freaking out, pulling my hair out of my head. And he's driving me to the hospital to be admitted into a psych ward. And that's when everything, there was no holding back pain and it all just came at once. And my best friend was in the car with me. Both of these guys were great friends to me, and they get me to the hospital, and I don't know what psychotic breakdowns are like, other than that seemed like it. And then I was admitted into the psych ward, and I spent 5 days of peace. I was totally at peace. Because, well, one, they put me on medication that kind of helped. But the other was that there was nothing was hidden anymore.
No more secrets.
No more secrets. Well, the door was open.
Right. Yeah.
The door was open.
I started to say maybe no more secrets on the depression and the suicidal thoughts. Maybe not the deeper stuff, but yeah.
The doors were